I'm Chris Palmer, and welcome to GratitudeSpace Radio, and I'm here with my friend Analiese, sorry, I don't know why I'm messing up your name. You are. I'm even clicking the buttons wrong. Well, this is a special birthday gratitude episode, and we're doing it again like it's the first time.
Yep, exactly. Take two.
Take two, yes. So I was just trying to say that, I like to start these off. Well, for one thing, we were saying before is, birthdays are a great time for people to reflect on what they're grateful for in their lives. And it's a great time just to give that space to people. And I love hearing what people's thoughts are on their birthdays and the people in their lives. And I saw that thanks to Facebook that we are connected, and I saw that they reminded me your birthday was coming up. So I was thinking, I haven't talked to you in a really long time, and this is a great opportunity for us to chit chat and share some gratitude.
Yeah, and like I was telling Chris before, super grateful to have the opportunity to reflect with somebody else about things to enter into of my life. So I'm entering the age of 30, dirty 30. We're gonna have fun. And let's see what we can, I guess we're gonna look over time as I enter my birthday. So thanks, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome, for sure. And I love to start these off. I love to just kind of give some gratitude for the person that made and the mechanisms that made this possible. For me, it's always nice to have a connection and have a moment with somebody. But if you can reflect on, how did that happen? Like, where was the connection at? So in that vein, I'm trying something new here, where we get to go. Thank you, Lilo. I like to call him Lily. So my friend Lee, I've known for, I feel like, 12, 13 years. And we became friends in Savannah, Georgia when he was in college there. And actually, I think I met him after I graduated. And he's a great guy. And every time I come to New York, I see him. And he, years ago when I was starting my gratitude journey, him and I chit-chatted a lot about different ways to share gratitude. And in one of those chats, he mentioned you, and he had this friend. He's like, I think she'd be perfect to talk with you because you guys have a very similar, seems like you have very similar message or energy. So that's my story, Lee. And I wanted to thank Lee. How did you meet Lee?
Lee, so yeah, that's so funny. I haven't seen Lee probably in about 6-7 years. I had met him at a job at a digital advertising. One of my favorite places to work because everyone's energy was super creative. It's always like creating mindset. And that's where my YouTube channel, Analiese in the City, which is what I think Anthony's talking about, where we have similar energies, because that whole premise of the show was me being obsessed with interviewing people chasing or like walking towards fulfillment in life. People who are doing more than the 9-to-5, living on autopilot. And I naturally tend to talk to people about this. So that's probably what Lee was talking to you about. So yeah, that's how I met Lee. Super funny dude.
Oh yeah. Awesome guy. And that's true. Yes. It was because of your YouTube show. I do remember that now. That was specifically. So you have a better memory than me. I remembered Lee, and then you remembered the other things.
Well, I just jogged because you said that, and I was like, oh, I wonder why Lee thought that. But that's exactly why. I birthed that YouTube channel because of that advertising agency.
Awesome. So, so what, for people who don't know you or watching this, could you share a little bit about yourself and your passions?
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Analiese. I am doing my 30th birthday. Some of my passions, Puerto Rican and Dominican, but born in the States, New York. And my passions include striving for fulfillment. I'm somebody, like I mentioned before, that I want to know what true fulfillment is in life. And for someone who is very depressed and encountered a wake-up call where I realized I could put my time towards discovering what I love in this world. I love dance. I love dancing. I love clothes. I work in ready-to-wear fashion, and it feels like everything is starting to align. But my passions include aligning towards the things so that I can truly make the most of it and maybe wake up others who want that call in their life, but haven't quite figured out that that's an option for them. So, did that answer your question?
Yes, it's very good. But inside that question, that answer, you mentioned, I feel like you said there was a moment when you had a realization. Did you say that? Did I hear that correctly? So I'm curious. Could you speak a little more to that? Because I feel like there's some more good stuff right in that.
Yeah. So how can I explain this wake up call? I guess I'm very grateful for my family, like my mom, my dad, my sister. It's the four of us. It's always been the four of us. And my parents are, I guess, middle class. We're middle class. And when I say it like that hesitation, it's like my father's Dominican. He came to the US when he was, so learning English and just surviving once he came to the States. My mom, she's very shy. And long my parents, when they met each other, it's like perfect yin and yang. My dad is always the risk taker. He's always pushing my mom to do more. And my mom's more of like the logics, you know?
Mm-hmm.
With both of them, their attitude, they've always been able to overcome obstacles with this immense faith. Like when things look impossible, it is amazing to see when things look like they're about to break apart, like always trusting God to pull through the universe and knowing that they're going to work out. So there came where we faced goals in my teenage years. I won't get into detail with all of them, but one of them included like our house burning down.
Oh, wow.
It was we moved to Florida, built our dream home, and I think it was like a year later, the house caught on fire. My dad was cooking, and the stove, it was an electric stove, like it was fire in the house. So my dad couldn't see it from the outside. We had a lot of land. And so he was gardening. He came back into the house, and the house was in flames. And quickly lost everything. So, you know, that was one of the things that had caused like an identity, like questioning my identity, depression, on top of things, you know, that we had gone through that we didn't know how to fully process. But it came a point where I was just so negative in my life. I was dealing with cystic acne, that I had polycystic syndrome, and it was just like a lot to deal with. And then the wake up call happened after I graduated college. Not saying that I would forever, but it was like, you know, I was aware there were some negative scripts going on the inside, and I didn't realize putting those scripts for me. And I'm trying to keep it short, but to get to the point, when I moved to New York, I encountered my cousin's friend who was really big in the attraction, and so to The Secret. Have you heard of The Secret before, that book? Yes. Game changer, because it showed me how our internal negative are always influencing your moves in life. So if you're someone who's has a negative script going on inside, you kind of tend to look at the world in a way that is just negative against you. You're always looking for the bad. And then when I read that book, I used to have a problem with looking at myself in the mirror because of the acne. It was like all over my face. And that book, practice every day, just manifesting and being grateful. I found this book called The Magic. Have you read The Magic from Rhonda Byrne?
Actually, I've not read The Magic, but I have heard of it.
Yes, The Magic is basically, she wrote these books, The Secret, The Magic, The Power, Hero. So attraction, the power is love and life, magic is gratitude, and the hero is all about the hero's journey of people going through obstacles, overcoming them. And so once I got into those books, I started experimenting on myself because I had nothing to lose, and that turned to be the best experiment I've done, because it literally rewired my brain to get back to an optimistic mindset. And yeah, that's just a brief, hopefully, synopsis of the wake up call.
Oh, I love that. Well, who is? Do you remember the name of the friend that said you should read The Secret? No, that's okay if you don't. I love the story, and I think like you were in the place where you needed to be at that time after getting to New York, and then you came to this person, and it sounded like it was such a banner. It's amazing. In my book, I talk about like there's so much stuff going on all around us all the time, right? Information is come and go. Most of the time, we don't even it's those moments when we actually hear something, right? Like this person going, "You should read this book," right? Who knows why at that moment, right? You just happen to go, okay, and then what you're talking about now is like this massive change, right? Like this mindset change of who you are because somebody just referred a book to you. And it's like, it's such a it's a magical thing when we're aware enough where we connect with something and then it changes our lives. It's amazing. That's a story you just told, really. You told this leading up, having the house burned down, going to New York, and then being in this mindset with how you felt about yourself. And at the exact time, you were aware enough to hear somebody say this. And I think it's awesome. It's a beautiful story. Yeah.
Thank you. But the reason I laugh is because this person wasn't really a friend. They didn't like me.
Huh. Oh, well, here we go.
They didn't like me, and I didn't really care for their personality either, but they were my cousin's friends. But it was like, it's funny, right? Somebody who like you or somebody doesn't realize the effect that they had in their life. Maybe something that they, I don't know, because when people don't like you, maybe they don't want to see you win. But like maybe because I was attention to what she was saying, she doesn't realize how she actually changed my life in the best way possible. So yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah. Again, the messenger may not have been had the best interest at heart, but you just happen to be, again, you guys cross each other's path where this is what you heard. I have a podcast host named Peter, and he tells a story about this guy named Moosh that he's friends with that inspired him to write his book, because Moosh said, he remembers Moosh saying that Moosh got, for 100 days in a row, he wrote for an hour a day, and then he had a book, right? Like this was Peter's, and I heard this story from Peter many, many times, right? Because that's what Peter heard. But we had Moosh on the podcast. Peter told the story, and Moosh said, Peter, I hate to correct you here, but it was once a week for 100 weeks. Like, So the funny thing is, it's like even in that instance, like he didn't hear exactly, you know what I mean? Like he heard something that like resonated with him, made it like once a day, where it was once a week, where this person may have been like, you said you guys didn't get along, but at that moment, what you heard was like, you should check this book out. And that's, and that's what, and in that essence, like that's what you walk away with, which is a powerful thing. And I love the, it's, again, just going back to that idea. It's like, you wake up and you see the lens in the world that, you see the world through the lens that you apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I was just looking for a solution at that time, anything, just so desperate for something that could be the solution. So that's funny. That's probably exactly.
Yeah, well, that's, again, like you're being more aware and you're more open to just hearing what people say. Again, it's just different times of our life, and that's what I feel like gratitude. Intention and gratitude allows you to slow down and be present, where you're actually more. For example, if you're not being present, you're not going to hear what people say. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing. Like if you're not actually being present, you can't really appreciate what's in front of you, and that's what Yeah, when we come across these things that change our lives, it's specifically because we're being present. It's because in some reason in that moment, we were just more aware to be like, what's going on here, opposed to, oh no, what am I looking like, or what happened yesterday, or what's going on tomorrow. It's like, it's those moments when we come to being present and that the magic happens, and that's huge. I think it's huge. And there's so much gratitude.
I agree. It's interesting that you say that, right? Being present. And sometimes I have this thing where, so I went to school to be a reporter. And so I kind of have this thing where like, I love people's stories. And it's funny because I'm always looking for the sound bite. I'm always looking for the gem to take away from certain conversations. And so, yeah, I naturally be maybe too good of a listener where people want to tell me their life story, which I appreciate, right? Because I love learning through other people. Sometimes it can get a little but it goes to your point. Being present has changed my life in a different way because I feel like I get all these little life lessons from everybody because I get to experience the world through other people and just take it for yourself.
Yeah, and when you say you're listening to people, and you're listening for what they're saying, the other flip side of like gratitude is like all I want to do is be a catalyst for gratitude. And honestly, when you really listen to somebody, you're creating a space for gratitude. When you just show up and when you're talking to somebody and you're actually really focusing on them, that's you're creating space for gratitude because you're being present for the person in front of you, which is a form of kindness. You know what I mean? So it's kindness is a massive way to be a catalyst for gratitude.
Yeah, I like how you're saying that. That's true. I agree.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. And then the great thing is, like when we're talking about this, is when you are aware for somebody, the great thing is when you're listening to somebody else, you're not thinking about your problems at that moment because you're just listening to them, and you're just creating, and you're not thinking, you're showing up for somebody else, which is kind, and at the same time you're being present. So it's a powerful thing. And that's just like us talking right now. We're here for each other, which is great. Like if we were in a coffee shop right now, there'd be 1,001 noises going on around us. We could never actually have this kind of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that is true too. So all great points. And yeah, I feel like when you're talking to the present, right? Maybe it's a way of showing love, right? I feel like a lot of people don't get the validation to express their stories. And so when listens to them, it's like a relief because you're maybe, especially for people who are more listeners and don't really tell others what they're experiencing. I find that I'm listening to people like that because I'm also one of those people, and I'm grateful when people listen to me, or not always just looking for me for help, but when I'm able to express myself, it's just like weight comes off of your shoulder. So there is like a nice, I don't know if it's gratitude is the word, but there is a nice space of appreciation of going on by being talking to people in that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it depends how you look at it. I feel like, like I was saying, like you're just creating when you show up for people, you're creating a space where gratitude can exist because you're by default when you actually respect somebody and you're there for them, that's a show of appreciation of your time to actually, this is important. The statement, even if you don't say it, it's like the statement is basically, this is important. I'm paying attention to you. Like I'm looking at you. I'm not everywhere else in the world. I'm here with you. And, I had an amazing author, Hector Garcia, who wrote a book called Itchy Go Itchy. And, he talked about, Itchy Go Itchy is what they use in the Japanese tea ceremonies. And it basically means that this is sacred, will never happen again. So it's a way of bringing yourself to the moment because it doesn't matter if you were to have the same conversation a week later, it's never the same. Every moment actually is sacred because it will never, ever happen again, regardless of you reconstructing it. So in the same sense, when we're with people, when you give people your attention and you're actually being there for them, that's an itchy go itchy moment because you're really being present for the person, which is a complete form of appreciation, I think.
That's probably going to be my little nugget of our conversation today. That is so true. You will never relive the same exact moment because that person's going to be, even if you do talk about the same thing, right? You don't know mentally where both of you will be in that moment next time you talk about it, but I like it. So it's called the itchy moment.
Itchy go itchy is the Japanese frame. The phrase is itchy go itchy, but the book is spectacular because it's all just about reasons to be in the present and ways to do it, and the importance of realizing that every moment actually is sacred. So the more we can bring that, obviously we can't, I don't think it's possible if you're in a life because you obviously have to drive a car or, you have things you're doing, but the more we can build mechanisms into appreciating these moments, the more that's, the moment is where life is. That's what we remember, right? We don't, for example, like driving to work, you don't remember driving to work, right? Like that's just something, if you do it all the time, it just becomes I drive to work, and that's, 10 hours a day, or I could take the train, right? You take the same train. But when you decide to take a different route, or you go, say somebody picks you up, then it becomes a memory, right? Because it's a new experience. So the mindset of it's the whole mindset, right? It's like, this is its own experience. It will never happen again. So the more that we can build those moments, just like, gratitude on your birthday, into our lives, the longer our lives will go, we'll have more moments and to share, and more magic to remember.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I feel like maybe unconsciously I've kind of had a little bit ingrained in my mother. My mother, she is a middle child. She has an older sister and a younger brother, but he passed. So she has always encouraged my sister and I that we should say sorry quickly. Don't go to sleep mad, because you never know when your last moment is going to be with the person that you love. So in a way, when you were just talking about, I feel like I almost see life a little bit that way, not knowing that's a way of being present.
Right.
Because you don't know when your last moment is going to be, with just milking out to the max that you can by being present, I think is a really great way to kind of put interactions with people. But I really do like that there is a book about that, and I like that phrase, Ichigo Ichi.
Yeah, Ichigo Ichi. Yeah, he was on the podcast, and I can share the book with you if you want to take a look at it. But it's really fantastic. It's a great read, and really like him a lot. So I'm glad we can talk about it. Even when I was talking to him, he said something really beautiful on the podcast. I asked him what like gratitude meant to him and how would he explain it, and he's so like, I could tell he looks up, so I could tell nothing was scripted, right? Like you could tell like he's just there, which is all I want. I just want to have a conversation. And he's like, well, I think he's like, gratitude's like, it's like when, you're focusing on that one thing that's wrong, and, but you have 99 things that are going right. So it's like this image in my head was like, gratitude is when you decide to turn your head to the right and focus on the things that actually are going right in your life. I had this image in my head just because of the way he was talking. I was like, that's a beautiful image. It's like when you just decide to look over here at this massive wall of things you have that are working, right? The things that are good, just to take away from this one thing. It's that whole idea of, if 99 people say that's, you have a nice smile, one person comes up and says your hair looks nasty. It's like, that's all we think. It's like that negative connotation is all we think. But it's like, in the moment we can decide to make that choice to pivot, like that's gratitude.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is a beautiful way to put that. So true.
Thanks. Yeah, that was just a
conversation today.
Well, I love sharing. That's just because I talk with people. I get to share these wonderful thoughts other people bring to my mind, that they create for me. So,
yeah.
I know we're getting, so you already expressed, actually, I want to step back for a second. I loved how you were sharing love for your father and your mother. What were, your dad coming from the Dominican Republic, what were the mechanisms that came into like him actually getting to the States? Like how do you know the story, your ancestral story of how that happened?
You kind of broke up in the beginning. So what was the
I was just curious, like, for example, your whole life, obviously, up to this moment is the way it is specifically because your dad moved from Dominican to obviously to the United States. So I was curious, like, do you know, like, how that happened or who came into play or what brought your father to the States?
Yeah. So my dad has a lot of siblings. I have to count them right now. Hold on. Dario, Betsy, Heidi.
Oh, wow.
Even Fausto. So it's 6 of them and a step sibling. So from my understanding, and I'm not sure the story, but the bullet points that I know is that him and his family grew up in Dominican Republic. They moved a lot, and it's very hard for my dad. I'm only speaking for my dad, but it was very hard for my dad to, I guess, pass grades in school. And he just struggled a lot growing up. And his father came to the United States. He went to New York, found a job, wanting to bring everyone over for a better life. And yeah, I think my dad just felt living in the US, and did everything he could to just stay here. But I don't remember the nitty gritty details, but I just know it was all for life.
Mm-hmm. And did he meet your mom in New York?
He did. He met my mom at work. My dad was working as security at the Federal Reserve, and he saw this cute girl in the mail cart, which was my mom.
Oh, wow.
My dad makes me laugh because he always retells the story, but he's always like, he was a little player of girls, but when he saw my mom and he met my mom, like he just knew something was different about her. And like all the other people on his floor used to be like, yo, there's a male, talk to her. You know, they and they clicked, and here I am.
I love that, because there's like so much. I have this. This is a very similar idea. I call it gratitude cubed. It's like the same thing we did with Lee, but when you talk about, and it's, if you're in any, for example, if you're in any state where you're grateful, you can look back and see all these magic, for instance, the good and the bad, and you can see these pinpointed moments and go, it's okay, or that's amazing, right? Like, because here you are. And when I hear that story, I hear like, your dad's in another country, and then his father moves to New York, which is amazing. And then his father brings him over, and then, so then he's off that island. He's in New York. And then, he gets his job. Who knows how he got the job at the Federal Reserve? Somehow he ends up at the Federal Reserve, and then your mom ends up there, and they end up together. And then here, and then that moment occurs, and here you are. And like, that's just, it's magical. It's like when you think about these little things, right? They were just little turns and places to interaction. And then you have these people meeting in New York in this office building, and here, and building a life together. It's beautiful. I think there's so much gratitude, so many moments to be grateful for leading up to the meeting, let alone here you are, right? But just that story.
That's true. And it's funny. It is a moment of gratitude to reflect and be like, wow, I guess I'll say it now because he's never heard me say it, but like, yeah, thanks, Dad, for sticking it out in New York, and meeting Mom, and bringing Stace and I into the world. I appreciate your sacrifices to get us where we are today. And yeah, to have more abundance moving forward, create better generations to come, and break cycles, no longer working, brighter futures. So that was a step. That was the start.
For sure. That was beautiful. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. I remember I talked to somebody else on their birthday, and they mentioned how who ended up being her stepfather, came to, the country. I didn't even know she was from this other country, right? And meets her mom. And then that's part of them coming to the States, and like her, where she was and everything. And it was just like those little connections. It's so, it's just in a world that is totally, entropy and chaos. Like when you get to look back and see like these little connections, these amazing connections, and where, what it led to, it's just, like I said, it just makes, obviously we can look at it and go, okay, that makes sense. People move around, they interact, but or you can say it's magical. I like to look at life. I choose to look at life and say, that's magical. That's my choice. So when I hear stories like that, I'm like, that's freaking amazing. That's not,
Yeah. In hindsight, it's magical, right? Because in the moment, it doesn't feel that way. But when you look back and you see, wow, like what are the chances that these events or occurrences happen to make everything happen where we currently are? It is magical because it is rare, or there wasn't a huge chance that that could have happened.
Right. Yeah. In the moment, yeah, everything's just kind of happening. But that's where we go back to, like, if we can be more present, we're going to have more moments that lead to the, you're obviously, those are intentional things, moving out of the country. And then these are all intentional ideas when he sees your mom or he's there and like they connect. These are all because they were, being present, being aware of what's going on around. And then this happened, then the magic happened. So it's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I actually I took my dad this last year. He'd been talking about for years. My mom and dad went to college near here, and I'd heard stories about it all the time. And it was the 50s. He's like, on this date coming up, it's going to be 50 years since I met your mom walking up the hill, at Converseville College. I go, and fortunately, I said, because of COVID and being locked down, I was like, you want to It's like, I don't have work. I was like, we can go. I was like, we could totally go do that. We could go on that day, go to this, go to the campus. And we did. We got up early and we drove the 3 hours, and he stood there at the top of the hill where he has the memory of her walking up the hill. And, we walked around, and, it's just, it was beautiful. It was fun. It was almost like he was a kid again, because you're talking about 50 years ago, and him going like, oh, this is the chapel. I remember there's like a stairwell over there. We used to go, over there and kiss, and this and that. And then, but it was just these, and then we went to this one other place, and he shared this one memory. He said, I remember this one day, your mom and I, we drove to Western Kentucky, which is another school, to check it out, but they were closed, and we came back, and I said, you understand, like, if they would have been open and you would have gone there, your life probably would have been completely different. I probably wouldn't exist.
Wow.
Like, just because you got to think about, like, you move people, they were dating at the time. Who knows if they both would, you know what I mean? Like, you change like a school and a situation, like everything changes, right? But I loved how he shared that story, because again, it was like, if that place would have been open, there's a good chance I wouldn't exist, and our lives would be, his life would have been completely different. So it's little things,
that originally doesn't work out turn into something greater. Is mom still around?
No, my mom passed away 7 years ago of cancer. It'll be April 30th this year. Will be the 7th year.
So sorry for your loss. That's beautiful that you took your father back to just remember mom in that way. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm glad we could do it. It's just, again, it was. I'd heard stories, and it was just the right time, and it was really wonderful. Got pictures, and yeah. He talked about that the other day, actually. Yeah, that was. It's those, again, like, slowing down and hearing, if you hear a story 100 times, it's like, because I'd heard it, I hadn't thought, well, we should just go there, right? Like, it just never occurred to me. But because it's like where we are in our lives and the things slowing down, it's like, I was like, we should, it just made sense. It finally made sense to say, why don't we do that? Let's take a trip together.
That's great. That's amazing. And I'm sure it was nice to hear your parents in their younger years, right? Just to see it right in front of you. And him, like, going back to his younger years, I'm sure that hits a little different.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, I'm glad we could, at the situation, my mom not being here, was a very nice thing for us to just go do together and have that space together. So, and have those memories. So yeah, it was great. But I just love those. I love hearing the little things, because in the moment, again, back to the moment, right? When things don't work out, we are immediately disappointed. But honestly, until days later, you really don't know, you know what I mean? It's like judging that moment. You don't really know, you know what I mean? Like, the judgment of the moment isn't a true statement of what's going on.
Right. Yeah. You don't know what God or the universe was really meant to give you in that moment. Maybe it wasn't what you wanted, but it was something greater.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I was even talking with my friend Shira the other day, and she was talking about the man she loves. And she explained to me that the only reason she met him was because the rental car company wouldn't allow her to rent the car she wanted to go to the Joshua Tree. So therefore, so get this. So therefore, she invites a friend, and then they end up there, and the friend shares it on Instagram. This guy, Chris, it's a Chris, sees it, and then, they end up meeting up with him, and then the rest is history. But it was like, she's like, it's because I couldn't get a rental car.
Thank you, rental car, for denying me a car.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, again, those little moments. So I really appreciate this. It's been a really great time. I know I've talked probably a little bit more than I should have, but I want to give you, if you have any more words, or, I mean, you shared some really great stories and wisdom, but if you have any, anything else you'd like to say, or people you'd like to share in your life, I'd love to give you space for that.
Maybe this is more of like a lesson or something that I want to remind myself as I enter 30 that could probably resonate with other people, is I'm thankful for another year. I'm thankful that I'm also one of those people that don't dread getting older. I am so thankful. Thank you, God, for another day, another year. And I want to remind myself, 2020 was difficult for me. I am more of an extrovert, and 2020 showed me, or an ambivert, introverted and extroverted. And it showed me the power of balance, because when I leaned too much one way, it just caused chaos. So I just want to remind myself, entering into 30, to enjoy your life, do the things that spark joy and love. Like they literally burst a light inside your heart. Keep following that. And when things get tough, not to lose sight that you're always going to figure it out. And yeah, maximize the opportunities to just create the life that you want, but enjoy it, love the people around you. That's another thing I learned. Your circle, keep it with people who are supportive, who want the best for you, and kind of just, you can love everybody, your enemies, but just keep them at a distance too. Say hello, goodbye, I'm in, I'm out, but always move it forward. Always keep it moving. That's what I want to tell myself in 30. You can do anything. You are beautiful. You're a woman. And thank God for another year. And for everybody entering their birthdays, I hope that they can realize what a beauty and privilege it is to enter another year of life and to create the life you really want for yourself, where you feel that fulfillment, joy, you're proud, and keep the people you love around you. The end.
That was beautiful. Well, I wanted to say happy birthday, Annalise, and I'm Chris with Annalise. Just reminding you guys you have a lot to be grateful for, and have a wonderful day. And we are out.